We all know women that seem to have real financial freedom, the dream home, the dream wedding, the dream trips abroad. They are not relying on anyone else to basically fund it for them. Now more than ever, women are building things for themselves. And trust me when I say that one of the most reliable ways for you to create that level of freedom is to start your own business. Like you, I was living the corporate life, in the rat race, fighting for the pay rises. I knew I could do more, so I took the leap. I left the corporate world and I took a risk. I spent 7 years building a company that went on to be valued at £24.4 million. And it gave me the life that I have today. Now I am a mom, I've got 2 ace kids, I'm a wife, and I run a couple of businesses myself. So in this video, I am gonna walk you through the 6 lessons that you should know before you start your own business. And not knowing lesson number 5 quite literally cost me millions. So make sure you stick around for that one. Lesson 1, is it actually for you? Firstly, the thing I wish someone had asked me was this: do you actually want to run a business? Because I don't believe that running a business is for everyone. So the first and most important step is to answer that question and to answer it honestly. To run a business, you don't need excitement. I've got lots of that. You need stamina and you need to be obsessed. You do not need to be brilliant on day 1, but you do need to be brilliant on day 200. There's going to be times when no one is cheering you on, when no one is buying, you're earning nothing, and nothing feels certain. That is the roller coaster of running a business. Obsessions over a long period of time is what separates you from the 60% who quit. So my truth, I never wanted to be a founder. There was no vision board, there was no business plan, there was no dream to be my own boss. My path felt like it was always going to be corporate. I wanted to climb that corporate ladder, and essentially I always wanted to become the CMO of a company like Nike, essentially just Nike. That was always my vision. So when I accidentally found myself starting an agency, it wasn't strategy, it wasn't me being brave, it wasn't me backing myself. It was just due to being in the right place at the right time and a hell of a lot of hard work. I think a really great example of that is Canva. Melanie Perkins, founder of Canva, she spent 3 years being rejected by more than 100 investors, but her calling to make design accessible to everyone was strong enough to keep her going, to keep her facing that rejection. And obviously we now know that Canva is valued at $5.8 billion. Here is what I have learned from speaking to hundreds of founders. Every founder who truly succeeds is obsessed. They are not obsessed with the title, not with the hustle, not with CEO on their LinkedIn headline. They are obsessed with what they are building. Their passion is that driver. And what no one tells you is this: you do not need to be confident. You do not need to be perfect. You do not need to know everything, but you do need that obsession. And you need the ability to keep going when nothing is working in your favor. You need to believe that there is no option but to make this work. So ask yourself these questions. Am I obsessed with something? Do I have real skill that can solve real problems in the world? If the answer is yes, starting a business is absolutely on your cards. Lesson 2. You must solve a problem that actually exists. This is one of the most crucial lessons. If you are not solving a real problem, then what is it that you are doing? Not a hypothetical problem, not a nice to have, a real, painful, irritating, expensive, time, money wasting problem. Something people will happily pay to make go away. In my case, influencer marketing was super new and it was exploding. Brands knew that they needed to pivot into that space, but they didn't know how to do it. At this point in my career, I'd almost a decade experience. I'd worked at ASOS, I'd worked at 3, and I'd worked at Red Bull. So when I started my agency, I had an obvious answer to the likes of the eBays and the Nikes of this world. My CV was the thing that gave me credibility when I walked into a room. And my experience and knowledge that I gained over those years showed all of those prospective clients that I knew what I was talking about and I knew that I could solve their problems. Steve Jobs once said, "It is not the customer's job to know what they want. It is your job to understand their problems deeply." When you understand the problem better than the customer understands themselves, you become the obvious solution. Your job as a founder is to go deeper than what your customers say and to understand what it is that they actually need. Most people build a product from their own perspective. Great business owners build from the customer's perspective. This is how Apple won. They did not ask their customers what they wanted. They instead supplied their behavior and removed friction at every single step. Lesson number 3, you must listen more than you speak. Art of listening is maybe the most important thing that any business owner can learn, and they need to learn it as soon as possible. Many, many years ago, I became ASOS's first social hire, and while I was working there, I learned one of the biggest lessons of my career from ASOS's founder, Nick Robertson. Nick cared more about customer experience than anything else. More than campaigns, more than advertising, more than industry awards. ASOS's success was built on 3 pillars: affordability, convenience, and most importantly, ease. Nick understood that if the customer wanted ease above everything else, that he should be the person to deliver it. He knew this because his customers told him. They told us on social, they told us on feedback forms, they told us in person, and he listened and he drummed into the entire business that they had to listen to. He obsessed over what the customer needed. Whilst I was at ASOS, we got the social following to 17 million. We were on 22 different social media platforms, not because I was a wizard at social, but because I listened. I listened to what the audience were telling us all day, every day. I spent every day learning about them, about what they wanted from the accounts, what they liked, what they engaged with, and I understood ASOS's audience like the back of my hand. And everything I've built ever since has been grounded on those principles. Listening is not passive. It is active, it is consistent, and it is often really, really uncomfortable. It means putting all of your assumptions to one side and letting the customer guide you. Jeff Bezos says, start with the customer and work backwards. Best founders are not loud. They are curious. They are observers. They let the customer write half of the roadmap for them. So when you truly listen, everything becomes easier. Your product becomes clearer, your marketing becomes sharper, your audience becomes loyal, your business grows because you're building something that people actually want. Listening is not a skill you can learn once. It is a discipline that will carry your business and even your personal life further than any other strategy ever will. Lesson number 4, timing and audience. So you understand that you might have what it takes to start and run a business, but there is also a reality to it. In the UK, 20% of businesses fail in year 1, 60% fail within 3 years. It is brutal. So what separates the ones that survive? Most people start at the wrong time, not because the market is wrong, but because their customer is not ready to buy. No matter if you're selling a product or a service, you need people who understand what you do and why. They need to know you, they need to trust the brand, and are they actually willing to pay for what it is that you are offering? Without any of these 3 things, you do not have a business. So a great example again, Uber. They did not win because the idea was groundbreaking. The timing was perfect. Phones were everywhere. People had got comfortable paying for things through apps, and the taxi frustration was high. If Uber had launched 5 years earlier, it would never have survived. Timing is not about the idea. It is about whether the audience is prepared and ready to receive it. And for you, you will not know if your idea is good until you've tested it. Make it simple. Create an MVP and get it into people's hands. Right, before we get into lesson 5, which honestly would have saved me millions. If you're watching and you have started a business or you're looking to start a business, then I've got the community for you. I run something called Next Level. There is really ambitious marketeers, agency owners, business owners, all within one safe space. We do supper clubs, events, like you name it, we do it all. We want you to invest in yourself. We want you to invest in your business. We want to give you all of the tools and tricks to make that easier for you. So all of that information is in the description below. Lesson number 5, the money and the ownership. In order to start a business, you often need money and runway. You need time to get something off the ground. Firstly, you can bootstrap. This is when you use your own money to start your business. Way slower to grow, but you get to keep 100% ownership of your company. Every founder I know that has bootstrapped is so grateful that they did in the long run. The second way is by raising investment. This is when you take someone else's cash to help you to grow. Main types of investment are either angel investors. They are individuals who back you early. Sometimes they can be friends, families, and obviously you've got venture capital investments as well. So these are much larger funds that invest when you have traction and have a clear plan to scale. So when you have run your business for many years or you've got a track record of creating successful businesses. So when I first took investment, I owned 40% of the company that I founded. At the time, I thought that was great. I did not have any role models who'd scaled and exited businesses at my age. Hindsight, I should have stood my ground. I should have known my own value. If someone is keen to take a slice of your business, it is because your idea is better than you probably already realize. Holding your equity is one of the things that you cannot get back. So for me, I did things slightly differently. I took personal investment. So I had one person that I met who took 60% of my business. They absolutely got me off the ground. They gave me a lot of financial security. Cash flow was always and always is a problem within the influencer space. So I could really sleep at night knowing that I could pay suppliers, that I could pay my team. But I guess on hindsight, I would have loved to have owned more of my business. I didn't really know that that was an option. And I really wish that I knew my own value. So I think the biggest lesson that I learned, that money gives you time, but equity is the thing that gives you control. And if you can protect your ownership, build interest early, and choose the right funding path for your situation, you will give your business a real chance of growing into something meaningful. So now you know that you want to start a business, and you also know that you have got a solution to people's problems, and you have the funding to get you started. But before you can get started, know that you cannot do this by yourself. Starting a business is one of the loneliest things that you can do. Best days feel personal. Your worst days feel even more personal. Every win, every mistake, every moment of doubt comes back to you. There is no team to hide behind. There's no manager to blame. There is essentially just no safety net. It is you. It is your decisions and whatever happens next. Throughout my time as a founder, I had plenty of lonely moments, but one really stands out. And that was when I exited my business. When I exited my business, I felt completely alone. I didn't know anyone my age who'd scaled and sold a company, but I also hadn't really worked out who I was without the company. So I spent so many hours just pinging ideas around in my own head with nowhere to really put them. I'm a big believer that you never know unless you ask. And so I decided that Stephen Bartlett and I had run careers in parallel, his far more successful of mine. He didn't know me, he didn't owe me anything. I just decided I'll send him a message. The worst thing that can happen is that he just ignores me. And within about 5 seconds, he'd replied and a meeting had gone in the diary that week. But it taught me something hugely important, and that is that you will be surprised how many people will show up when you ask. You do not need to do this alone. You can get a support network, whether it's small, whether it's virtual. That is a network that will carry you through your lows and your highs. Do not make the mistake of only looking at people 10 steps ahead. Find someone who is a little bit further along, someone who understands the stage that you're at, the specific problems that you're going through. When you surround yourself with the right people, everything gets easier. Your ideas become sharper, your confidence grows, your progress speeds up. Allies do not build the business for you, but they make it possible for you to build at your best. A moment of truth. If you have made it this far, you're probably asking yourself, should I give it a go? It is simple. If you are asking yourself that question, then the answer is yes. And if you love learning, starting a business is honestly a real life MBA. You will learn more in 6 months building something for yourself than you will in 6 years reading all about it. If you are obsessed with a problem that you are solving, if you care deeply about your customer, and if you are willing to do the boring stuff when no one else is watching, you have everything that you need. So if you enjoyed this video and you want to know more about starting a business as a woman, click here to watch the story of why I walked away from my £24.4 million business. Thank you for watching.